Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here. Today we're going to be running through a standard competitive league with a deck that I have been working on, which is Blue-Black Pirates. Now, I've already released two video series before this one on Blue-Black Pirates, so be sure to check that out to see how the deck is developed. The first time around was when Ixalan came out, and then just very recently I came out with a Rivals of Ixalan update to the Blue-Black Pirates build. And after that, I've tinkered with it a little bit more. So if you saw that first series, with the Rivals update, you'll notice a few changes. Let's go over just the basic gist of the deck. If you want to get a more in-depth review, I think I went over like 10 to 15 minutes of a deck tech with this build. So make sure to check that out in the previous video. I'll leave it in the description so you can access it easily. But I'll go over the basic gist. So Blue-Black Pirates is essentially going to be a tempo deck that wants to 1-for-1 or 2-for-1 your opponent's spells while you're generating 2-for-1s, right? So we have some cards here that are built-in 2-for-1s. We have Kitesail Freebooter, that is a creature that can get in for damage, and also takes a card out of your opponent's hand. We have Glintleaf Siphoner, which is a card that essentially draws you an extra card every turn or every 2 turns. We have Fathomfleet Captain, that creates 2/2 creatures when it attacks. And I think that's going to be more or less... Oh, we of course have Ruin Raider. You know, it draws you an extra card when you attack, so it replaces itself and draws you 2, 3, 4 cards throughout a game. You have Curious Obsession, that when equipped to a creature can draw you, 2, 3, 4 cards throughout a game. And then you also have Hostage Taker, that can exile your opponent's spell, you can cast it for yourself, and you still have Hostage Taker left, if not removed. And then, of course, you have Scarab God as well. So that's going to be one of the key 2-for-1s in the deck. Your Scarab God just takes over the late game after your opponent has burned all of their, removal spells and interaction on your early game here, because it's so dense in the early game, right? So, again, that's going to be the card advantage part of the deck. There's also the tempo aspect of the deck. We have very cheap threats, and then we back it up with cheap removal in the form of Fatal Push, and cheap counterspells in the form of Lookouts Dispersal. Now, you'll notice that Lookouts Dispersal needs Pirates to cost 1 less. So, and you'll also notice that this deck does not have exclusively Pirates, right? We have Glintleaf Siphoner, and we have Scarab God. And the important thing to understand about standard as well as, tribal decks is that if you go too deep on the linear tribal plan, and that you just, you'll become very easily disrupted. You'll be predictable. And it's generally not a good strategy to have a high amount of synergy unless there's a really high payoff, right? And we don't necessarily have that much of a payoff, right? We have a cheap counterspell. We have Fathomfleet Captain, It's not like we have some really major payoff like, pump all our pirates, give them +2/+2. It's not like we're that kind of deck, right? So it's important to find that balance between synergy and raw power level, right? Vraska's Intent doesn't obviously do much with the pirate synergy, but it's just a fantastic removal spell. Scarab God doesn't do anything with the pirate synergy, but it's a fantastic top-end card. And of course, Glintleaf Siphoner is not a pirate, but it is an insane, evasive early game play. So, I think I covered the general gist of the deck. Let's go over some of the changes I made. So I cut 1 swamp and added an If Near Dead lands. I think having access to more removal, especially when it's in your mana base, is really nice. Now, of course, the fact that you have to pay 1 life to use it could hurt throughout a game, but this is why we're playing, we're testing, right? I'm not saying this is the optimal best build in Standard or anything like that, but we're taking this deck, we're trying it out, we're testing it, okay? And so in the sideboard, I also updated it with a few new cards. So Golden Demise is the major addition I added, right? So there's a lot of go wide decks in the new Standard, right? There's Merfolk, there's Vampires, and there's even mono red that tends to flood the board pretty easily, right? So Golden Demise can sweep a board and even leave your board intact, which is, for 3 mana, that is a fantastic, more than 2-for-1, and it's much needed against those kinds of strategies. Then I also upped the Chupacabra amount. I think Ravenous Chupacabra is a really powerful card, but only against certain strategies, so that's why we have 2 in the sideboard, and it's especially nice with Scarab God. And then I cut down to 1 Gonti to make room for these additions instead of 2, because while Gonti is great, I don't think we're lacking in those kind of mid-range control matchups. We're more lacking in the aggressive tempo, mono-red mirror style deck, things like that. So Overall, this is how I like the sideboard configured. Obviously, 4 duress, 4 negate. That's what's so great about having access to blue and black. We have some of the best cheap tempo disruptive elements that's to offer in this type of deck. So that's going to be the general cover of the deck. Stay tuned for the next match here. We're going to jump straight into a standard competitive league. And again, remember, we're mostly doing this for testing purposes to develop the deck. So again, it's important to not be results oriented and just take the matches and the cards and the performances for what they are, nothing more and nothing less. And that goes for winning and losing. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this deck tech, and stay tuned for the first match coming up in just a second. I'll see you guys soon. Alright, welcome everybody to the first match in the standard competitive league. We won the die roll, great way to start. Well, let's go ahead and play first. Take a look at our opener here. Yeah, serviceable opener, right? We have 2 lands, we have some cheap interaction, and we have one of our nice kind of pseudo top ends, right? So I think this is a keep. We can lead on Kitesail Freebooter or Warkite Marauder, depending on what we think the matchup is going to be. And then we have some cheap interaction here. It looks like our opponent is going to go ahead and mulligan to 6. Let's go ahead and see how they scryed. They put a card on top, so it looks like it's probably not going to be a non-game here. So let's go ahead and lead on Fitted Pools and pass the turn. So standard is kind of weird right now. It's a lot of people trying new things, but also maintaining archetypes that are still real. Canyon Slough probably means some sort of Grixis mid-range build. It could also be, I think, Mardu vehicles. So my guess is a red-black deck of some sort. It has removal, so I'm going to go ahead and start with a Kitesail Freebooter here and see what my opponent's working with. Looks like they are vehicles, and we have a hand that is easily disruptible, so I like this a lot. I'm going to go ahead and take the Lightning Strike because there's 2 Heart-a-Kierans. Dealing with 2 Heart-a-Kierans is going to be unlikely, so let's go ahead and take the Lightning Strike and just call it a day. Also, you take Lightning Strike just because it's a removal spell, and they can, point it at the Kitesail Freebooter to just get their card back. So yeah, it could be a tempo play, but right now I think we want to more or less develop our board than force our opponent to send a removal spell at it. My guess is our opponent's going to go Veteran Motorist here, fix their draw a little bit. Man, the fact that this is a Scry 2 is insane. Looks like they're going to go for Heart-a-Kieran first. It's a very interesting play for my opponent. Hopefully we hit a land here so we can go ahead and play a Ruin Raider. No land, unfortunately, but doesn't mean we can't still make a play. So we can go ahead and attack for 2. The question is, do we want to leave up Fatal Push this turn? I think we do, which is why I'm going to go ahead and opt to play the Siren Storm Tamer and pass the turn. It's a shame we did not hit our next land drop, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead, make sure we keep our opponent's hand updated. They have 2 unknown cards. I'm going to leave the Lightning Strike in my opponent's hand here just because it might get removed, and then if it does, I would like to just have it, still available to see here. Our opponent is likely going to go Veteran Motorist here, rev up Heart-a-Kieran, swing at... Oh, wow. Interesting. They're just going to go Lightning Strike on... Okay, so we still know a lot of the cards in their hand. Toolcraft Exemplar, huh? I think that's going to prompt a Fatal Push here. So this is kind of tricky, right? Because our opponent still has another creature here, but we do want to avoid taking all this damage, and I think I'd rather take them off of their Crewers rather than killing the Heart of Kieran. So our opponent drew into a pretty good curve here, right? Their mana lined up really well. They still have a Lightning Strike laying around, so we're going to hope to hit some land drops and maybe take over the late game here, because we're definitely not taking over the tempo game here. Our opponent's doing a much better job at developing their board in regards to that. So if we Fatal Push the Heart of Kiran here, it means our opponent is left with a bunch of 2-mana spells in hand. I don't know. I think because they have another heart and we don't necessarily have another removal spell, I like just getting rid of the Toolcraft Exemplar. And hopefully we hit a land next turn and we can get the bash in for some amount of damage here. And then still draw a card. So I think that's going to be the best way for our mana to line up at the very least. It's going to be a question of if we can draw into that land, right? Opponent tanking on their play here a little bit, which is odd considering there's a very clear line of play here. Maybe they just went up. I have to do something. But next opportunity we have to gain priority, we'll go ahead and Fatal Push the Toolcraft Exemplar. That way our opponent cannot crew the Heart of Kiran at the beginning of combat. Let's see if we get to hit a land drop for our turn, because that would be really nice. And we do. Awesome. Go ahead and bash in here for 1. If our opponent spends their turn lightning striking, I think we're in a good spot, as we still have Hostage Taker. So our opponent is down to 18. Let's go ahead and play out Ruin Raider. And let's hope we can hit some land drops off of his trigger. And yep, that's a land. That's exactly what we need. It's a slower land, but it's something. It's a shame that our opponent, drew that second lightning strike, but I think they might be forced into lightning striking me here. Yeah. Especially because we have the Siren Storm Tamer. And this is a real tempo advantage for us. So we play our land, play a Marauder. The Marauder is quite a nice aggressive creature here. Obviously we can't leave back anything to block because the Heart of Kiran is a 4/4. So our opponent still has 1 unknown left in their hand. Alright, make that 2 unknowns. So removing a Heart of Kiran definitely seems a lot less viable now. Looks like our opponent is going to go ahead and scry 2 here. Let's see how they scry. See if we should be worried about the next couple plays. Looks like they go bottom and top. Okay, so looks like they're going to be drawing a card that they want. And that Veteran Motorist is out of their hand, but we're well equipped to deal with our opponent here. So I just want to make sure I'm not auto-yielding. That's because we still have Siren Storm Tamer activation up. And I guess the big question is, did our opponent draw another creature to play here? Because if they did, they're in a pretty good spot, because then they can probably recrew the Heart of Kiran. But it looks like they didn't, and I think we're in a pretty good spot here. I think we want to go ahead and keep the board as clear as possible. And even though we take down our Storm Tamer shield, I guess we should have attacked first, in case our opponent did draw a removal spell here. But I think things are going to work out for us. Again, our opponent's got a dead Heart of Kiran in their hand, essentially. And we've got a board presence. Yeah, they've got 2 unknown cards. Hopefully they're not too scary. Fatal Push. Okay. And wow, Veteran Motorist is perfect here, right? Because it keeps fixing their draws, which is really, really annoying. So we get smacked for another 5 here. Yeah, that's rough. How did our opponent scry? They went bottom, which is a good sign for us. Very good sign for us. It means that I can probably play Hostage Taker on Veteran Motorist next turn, and hopefully we draw land to be able to protect the Siren Storm Tamer. And now we know our opponent's left with a Heart of Cure. Wow, actually with drawing Fatal Push, I think an alternative play is actually just to Fatal Push and play the Fathom Fleet Captain, and then we can protect it. Especially because I don't want to get blown out by another like Lightning Strike effect right now. So Fathom Fleet, and Fathom Fleet on its own can take over a game very well. So let's go ahead and just get this Motorist off the board, and we can now hope that our opponent does not top deck a creature here. They do have a lot of creatures in their deck though, so it's not unlikely. Opponent passing into combat here is a really good sign for us. Hopefully they don't have like a post-combat Chandra though, but even Chandra won't be the end of the world, and I'm not even sure they play Chandra in their main deck. Scarab God. So that could be really good, but right now I think I'm just going to go ahead and bash in here and make a pirate. And Fathom Fleet doing work. I was gonna like cut him from the list, but this is actually quite a showing. And if our opponent had a removal spell, they probably would have played it already. We do want to watch our life total here because again, they have burn spells. I'm sure they have unlicensed disintegration as well in their deck. If our opponent didn't play a spell last turn, I imagine they either drew a Heart of Kirin or a land for their turn last turn. Looks like an Aether Hub. That's probably what they drew last turn. Again, make sure we're not auto-yielding. So this, if you control another non-token pirate. Okay. Alright, and an uncontested Fathom Fleet Captain with protection is quite good. And now, things are looking really good for us. I could just play Scarab God, but... Okay, looks like our opponent might make a play to kill our Siren Storm Tamer. So to avoid taking 3 damage here, I think I will counter it. Now, this does mean we don't have lethal for next turn. Yeah, alternatively I could have just let that resolve and slammed the Scarab God, but I think just leaving up Vraska's Contempt here is fine as well. Alternatively, I could play Hostage Taker and still have lethal next turn. And that way, even if my opponent plays a creature, yeah, playing Hostage Taker also seems fine to me. I can't imagine a scenario where we get blown out. Alright, looks like our opponent concedes to Hostage Taker. Makes a lot of sense, and thankfully we did not have to show Scarab God. So for this matchup, I definitely like Ravenous Chupacabra. I like Golden Demise. Aether Sphere Harvester is also very nice. Some number of Duress and Negate are also something to consider, considering they have vehicles. Let's go ahead and think of what we want to take out. So our opponent is a removal dense deck. Curious Obsession. Not where we want to be against them, even with all of our disruption. Ruin Raider is a kill on sight card, but on the draw, having 3 copies can be a bit clunky. Same for Scarab God. While it does take over the late game, our opponent does have a lot of ways to tempo it out. Warkite Marauder, not a great card on defense. I'm going to go ahead and cut Warkite Marauder. Okay, so taking a look at the list now, Ravenous Chupacabra, Golden Demise, Aether Sphere Harvester. Do we want Gonti? He's a little expensive in terms of trading, and he dies to all of their removal, but I think we want to keep our 2-drop curve intact here. Yeah, I don't actually think we need that number of Duress, especially because they're such a cheap deck. They unload their hand relatively quickly, so it's a really poor top deck in the late game. And Gonti just seems a bit too expensive, doesn't quite impact the board like our other 4-drops. So I'm going to go ahead and say submit deck here. This hand is a bit clunky. My opponent went ahead and kept pretty quickly. Again, they're a very aggressive deck. And if we don't draw our lower end of the curve, especially with like 4 lands, if we keep drawing more lands, we could be in a really bad spot. But we do have this Aether Sphere Harvester, which is really nice. I'm going to go ahead and keep, and hopefully we can draw into it. We definitely don't have as nice of a curve as we did last game. Common Cold sent me a message. Oh man, you gotta love the Magic Online community. It's the best, the absolute best. I love it. Yeah, this is what I was worried about, just like drawing more lands. But worst case scenario, we can cycle Fetid Pools on turn 2. Our opponent's probably gonna slam a vehicle here. Yep. And so we're in rough shape. Hopefully we can draw a removal spell on this turn. Lookhouse Dispersal, not quite what we want without a cheap pirate. So it would be nice if we had like a turn 1 play, but we don't. Veteran Motorist, sure. Opponent's going to get in here for 5 damage, which is really rough for us considering this is what I was worried about. Like an aggressive draw from Mardu vehicles can really punish a slower keep like this, especially when we don't have removal in hand. Wow, our opponent decides not to crew. That's crazy for us. Hopefully we don't draw another. Ravenous Chupacabra is a good start. Kitesail Freebooter would also be interesting. I think I'd rather just... I could play Aether Sphere Harvester and then Ravenous Chupacabra to crew it next turn. I think I like the sound of that. Although it does mean we might be taking quite a bit of damage this turn. Yeah, because we're taking a bit of... Well, we can recoup some of that. The thing is, like, do I want my opponent to spend a removal spell? Well, they missed their second land drop, right? But let's see how they scried. They went bottom top. So they probably scried a land to the top. I think I'd rather force my opponent to spend their turn removing my creature, and then I can remove theirs. Alternatively, they might have just scried another Veteran Motorist to the top. Yeah, looks like Lightning Strike. That's what I was honestly hoping for. And this is kind of on the road to just trying to tempo them out. This Heart of Kieran will get in for quite a bit of damage here, but we do have some nice turns lined up here. And the old Ravenous Chupacabra gets that Veteran Motorist. And if our opponent has like an interaction heavy hand and less threats, we could actually have a decent chance here. But yeah, another Veteran Motorist again. That's going to be kind of rough for us. And we do want to get this Kitesail Freebooter or this Aether Sphere Harvester down as soon as possible, but we also want to deal with our opponent's threats. So the ideal draw here would be something like Fatal Push, right? Cheap way to interact with Veteran Motorist, and then also get down this Kitesail Freebooter or this Aether Sphere Harvester. And this is one of like the issues with leaving in Scarab God in the deck. Swamp, huh? So it's really tempting here to just go Harvester, Kitesail Freebooter. And I think that's what I'm gonna do. I guess I can start with Freebooter and see what my opponent's sitting on. And this does mean we probably take another 5 damage here, but... Oh, Fatal Push in hand, huh? I guess we take the more cheaper play. Yeah, we probably take the cheaper card here. So hopefully our opponent does not hit a land here. I'm going to leave back Chupacabra in case my opponent does hit a land and we want to block the Veteran Motorist. But if our opponent misses on land for another turn here, we could be in a really good spot. The issue is, of course, this Scrap Heap Scavenger. Definitely an issue for us. My hope is that my opponent just spends their turn lightning striking us. Yep. That's exactly what I was hoping for, and the next turn we can gain some life. Excuse me, guys. Still a little sick here. Again, it would be nice if we would be able to block this Heart of Kirin, but we can't. Okay, so here let's just go ahead and keep trying to tempo our opponent out. Let's crew for 1, and now we can start bashing in here and trying to race our opponent. Let's go ahead and pay an energy to gain 3 life here, so that way we're not dead on board if our opponent... Oh, the opponent spent their lightning strike, so we're definitely not dead on board. My opponent, I imagine, goes Scrap Heap Scavenger here. Yep. Obviously, our opponent being stuck on 2 lands, very helpful for us. But I think we're in a really good spot here. Especially with Lookout's Dispersal up next turn. Let's go ahead, play a Glint Sleeve Siphoner. Do we want to keep back a blocker in case they do... Well, I don't think we need to. I think we just want to get our opponent dead in 2 turns. We're still gaining some life here. Aethersphere Harvester doing some great work out of the sideboard, and now our opponent's just dead on board next turn, and we have this Lookout's Dispersal to counter lightning strikes and things like that. Our opponent goes ahead and crews. Again, not too worried about that. If our opponent's still stuck on 2 lands, there's going to be very little that they can do here. They do have Fatal Push, but they can't enable it to hit most of the stuff in our hand right now. Or in our play. Yeah, and again, we played around this. And looks like we got there in that first match against Mardu Vehicles. Again, our opponent got kind of stuck on 2 lands there, but hey, that's their keep. They even had some opportunities to scry to the bottom that they kept on top. And eventually we were able to tempo them out, right? We used our mana advantage, our 2-for-1s, and a little bit of life gain. And we ended up getting there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching that first match against Mardu Vehicles. And stay tuned for the second match in this modern competitive league. I will see you all very soon. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the second match here with Blue Black Pirates. Unfortunately, we had kind of an awkward hand here. Would be great with a black mana, but I'm going to go ahead and mulligan. I don't think that's a keep for us. Jeez, deck. Jeez. Okay, well, with 1 land, we can get there. That's not a land, so we have 3 chances at seeing a land on top of our deck here. Cannon Slew again. That hopefully it's not Mardu Vehicles, because our hand is not equipped to beat Mardu Vehicles again. I don't think we can afford to play that. Maybe I should have mulliganed to 5 this. I mean, because this hand is probably worse than our first hand by a significant amount. Looks like it is Mardu Vehicles again. I'm not sure this hand can beat Mardu Vehicles unless we rip exactly swamp right now. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say go. This is kind of rough, but we had 3 chances of seeing a land on the top of our deck by turn 2. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And we even had to bottom a really good interactive card in this matchup. So looks like we're getting smacked for 3 here. Our opponent gets to keep developing their board. Yeah, I don't see it like P and Kieran Alar comes down, or just P and Alar, or Heart of Kieran even. Yeah, that's just too late. I kind of don't even want to show my opponent what we are. Although, in the case our opponent just has a bunch of lands, I think I'm okay here. I could play Storm Tamer to save myself 4 life in the air, or maybe draw out a removal spell. That's not like a horrible play, but yeah. Yeah, now we take 8, and we're pretty close to dead. But maybe we can pass off as like Grixis mid-range here. My opponent can maybe sideboard differently here. Yeah, this is quite... So we need like... We would need like land and Fatal Push right now. We just don't... Yeah, this is... That was rough. That was rough. So we had the early game, but we just didn't have the mana, right? Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. Anyways... That's kind of a rough non-game. Let's employ the same sideboard strategy that we employed in the last match. Golden Demise. I think I want to cut both Scarab Gods, actually. Or Ruin Raider, now that I think about it. I want to cut both Curious Obsessions and the Warkite Marauders. Let's go ahead and bring this in here. And I actually like some number of Duress in this matchup here. So... let's sort by converted mana cost. Let's see what we may want to cut to alleviate some of the issues in our curve. Lookhouse Dispersal is kind of awkward. So I'll think it's okay, but it is a little awkward. So I think I want to ensure just to help that I can have proactive plays in this matchup. Anyways, let's run it back here. Kind of a shame. But hopefully we can draw a better 7 here. And it's acceptable. It's a lot of Aether Hubs, but it's acceptable. I'm going to play the Aether Hub in case I draw a Black Source here. And I can also Fatal Push in case my opponent plays like a 1-drop here. So Toolcraft Exemplar, that's actually a very interesting... I think I'll actually just not Fatal Push that this turn, because I want to get a draw off of my Glint Sleeve Siphoner as soon as possible. I think this deck needs less islands. Okay, so if our opponent does not have a removal spell here that they may be sided out, their Fatal Pushes. Heart of Kieran, sure. So this is good. This is how we want to gain that tempo advantage. We want to set up a board first before we start 2-for-1ing our opponent. I'm not going to block here. I'm going to use Glint Sleeve Siphoner to gain card advantage. Yes. Another Fatal Push is good if we draw some more black sources. So I think what I want to do here, Fetid Pools is definitely nice, but I think first I want to get in an attack here. That way I can get some energy in my pool. Then I can use an energy to play Glint Sleeve Siphoner. Oh, I guess technically I didn't need that, but... And the question is, do I want to get rid of the Heart of Kieran or the Toolcraft Exemplar? I think in this case, I want to get rid of the Heart of Kieran. Yep. Opponent's going to get in for some damage here, that's for sure. Sure. Go ahead and crew. How do they scry? It's important to take note of that. They went bottom top, so they are going to draw a card that they want next turn. The question is, do we want to trade this Toolcraft Exemplar for Heart of Kiran? I think we do. I mean, for the Glintleaf Siphoner? I think we do. I think we're in damage control right now. No trigger there, unfortunately. Hopefully we don't draw any more lands. Lookout's Dispersal is interesting because it makes me want to keep up both push. Yeah, I think I do want to do that. As awkward as that is for our mana, I think that's one of the best ways we gain a tempo advantage here. Again, that is really awkward for our mana though, because then we can't draw a card off of Glintleaf Siphoner, although we still could, and just not Fatal Push this Veteran Motorist. Yeah, I think that's a fine play. And hopefully if we can keep him off of Artifact, we can also keep him off of red mana. I take that back. That's a card I really don't want to Lookout's Dispersal. That's really awkward. I'm going to go ahead and cycle the Fetid Pools. Direfleet Poisoner, that's actually not bad at all. And I don't think I want to get it down this turn. Siren Storm Tamer, okay. Aethersphere Harvester, that's a good draw. That's a good pickup here. I think we go ahead and swing first. Again, this Glintleaf Cipher is kind of important to generate some black mana for us. And Aethersphere Harvester is going to be a great blocker. So, with Siren Storm Tamer, it's kind of a tell. Oh, actually, it's not really a tell because, well, it's a little bit of a tell because if we didn't have a black spell we wanted to play, we would have tapped differently. So I do like this play here because now we can keep up Storm Tamer and Fatal Push. We take off Lookout's Dispersal for one turn, but Harvester is a really important way to gain some life in this matchup. Hopefully our opponent doesn't slam a Hazoret right now. Glorybringer is a different issue. It's definitely a different issue. I wonder if they exert here. Looks like they are exerting. So I'm going to go ahead... Oh, cancel. I'm going to go ahead and crew. And I can block here. And then counter this with Storm Tamer. And then we can just block here. Don't need to gain life right now. Again, our energy is quite important, but we can also use it to draw cards. Would have been nice to counter that with Lookout's Dispersal, but ouch. That's really not what we want to see here. Yeah, this is going really poorly for us. But as we generate some energy, we can actually flash in Direfleet Poisoner here. Our mana is not lining up great in this match right now. Again, I think this is a good lesson to take away as we're tinkering with this deck. Probably 5 islands is a little bit too much. Again, we're a bit more of a black-oriented deck, especially on turns 1 and 2. Bomat Courier, sure. Okay, Dragon Skull Summit. Oh, if our opponent has another Glorybringer here, okay. This is manageable, at the very least. Oh, maybe I should have countered one of those. Yeah, Lookout's Dispersal is kind of looking quite poor in our hand right now. Well, we're definitely not generating another Oh boy. Yeah, we take 4 here. Glorybringer lights up again next turn. We can get rid of the Veteran Motorist. This means our opponent does get to maybe get an extra card off of Bomat Courier. Maybe we should have not drawn an extra card off of Grixis Siphoner because our black mana is really strained right now. Wow. Drawing the 3rd one, and I'm pretty sure we sided one out this game too. That's just really lining up so poorly here. If we swing in the Grixis Siphoner, we get to keep up Fatal Push. We still block Glorybringer. It's not the end of the world, but I think the only way we do win here is if we... that's not necessarily true. We can keep up Harvest. Like, we can crew whichever one. Yeah, as awkward as it might be, I think this board would be a lot more manageable if Glorybringer wasn't here, and so that turn that we tapped out for Aethersphere Harvester could have been what did us in. Glorybringer was not on my radar. Probably should have been. Yeah, Toolcraft Exemplar, sure. I guess they want to play that, obviously, because of Bomat Courier. If they want to cash it in, they don't want to discard it. Again, we'd be in a much better position if we just drew Black Source. And I guess that could have been a misplay on my part. Like, I cycled this Fetid Fools for efficiency, but looks like our opponent didn't actually... Well, cancel. I think I actually want to crew my Direfleet Poisoner. So again, we block here. Again, preserve our life, block here. Go to 3. Looks like we're pretty dead, especially with this very dead hand. And there's a Fetid Pools. Anyways, that was kind of unfortunate. We mulliganed game 1, and then game 2 we ran into the same issues with our mana. So something to consider, to learn from a game like this. Let's fix up the mana base for the next league, right? Anyways, thanks so much for watching the second match here. Unfortunately, it was again against Mardu Vehicles. Looks like that's kind of a big flavor. But hopefully we can face a different deck next round and maybe learn a little bit different things about our deck. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for the third match with Blue-Black Pirates. I'll see you all. Hey guys, thanks for joining me for the third match here in this standard competitive league. Looks like we have kind of an awkward hand here. It'd be nice with a second land, but I think it's a little too risky. This hand is much better. I'm going to go ahead and keep. Looks like our opponent's going all the way down to 5, which is unfortunate for them, especially on the play. I'll go ahead and keep a creature on top. That seems like a fine. Swear to God, if this is Mardu Vehicles again, I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna absolutely scream. Siren Storm Tamer. Let's go and pass the turn. Our mana is lining up quite well here. It looks like Shock. I don't know if Mardu Vehicles plays that, but interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and, because Fathom Fleet's not going to get activated very soon, I don't want to turn on my opponent's Lightning Strike on my turn. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and flash in Direfleet Poisoner. Fanatic Firebrand. So Fathom Fleet, Direfleet Poisoner might actually just get our opponent here if they don't have a 2-mana removal spell. And looks like we get to block and just eat our opponent's creature. That is so good for us. And let's see if we get to swing in here and trigger Ruin Raider. Looks like we're up against some sort of red deck. I am a little worried about like land into Hazoret, but don't think that's something I'm going to play around at this very moment. Look at Dispersal. Would be great against the Hazoret if it's not coming down right now. Yep, definitely one of the issues against Hazoret, right? I'm not going to block. I know that's a bit risky, but instead I think I will hold back to block for one turn with this Dire Fleet Poisoner. Hopefully we won't take too much damage off our Ruin Raider, and if we do, we can find... Because what's nice is Fathom Fleet will start generating... Alright, Fatal Push. One of the better flips off of Ruin Raider. So Fathom Fleet will start generating tokens. Alright, looks like our opponent's just going to discard a mountain and get in there for 5. We'll go ahead and block with Dire Fleet Poisoner here. If our opponent does not make a play, hopefully they don't have Shock in hand, because I'm just going to go ahead and cycle this this Fetid Pool is looking for Vraska's Contempt, or even a Hostage Taker would not be the end of the world. Again, so this turn, we want to make sure we activate Fathom Fleet Captain so that we can generate a blocker for this Hazoret. Actually... Yeah, I should have played my land first, but it's not going to matter all that much. Our opponent goes down to 10 here, so it looks like we have a little bit of a clock, which is nice. Let's go ahead and play this Aether Hub. And worst case scenario, next turn we can Ifnir Deadlands on Hazoret, and wow, okay, great flip off of Ruin Raider. Lands is exactly what we want to see here. Our opponent is going to go ahead and chuck another card at us. They know we're sitting on Lookout's Dispersal, so totally an understandable play for my opponent. We'll go ahead and block here. Again, generating these blockers is going to be really good for us. And hopefully Ruin Raider doesn't end up killing us. I think I'm going to go ahead and just, again, put our opponent on a one-turn clock here. Opponent goes down to 5. The question is, do we want a Kite Sail Freebooter here? And I think we do. And that way we still keep up Lookout's Dispersal. We're not dead to a removal spell. And looks like we get Chandra out of our opponent's hand. And let's hope we don't kill ourselves. Kite Sail Freebooter. I think we have a kill here, right? Because our opponent has to attack. If they don't attack, they're dead, right? Because even if they block, right? So, looks like we stole a game against red-white aggro here. Let's go ahead and sideboard accurately. I like Golden Demise against this strategy. I like Ravenous Chupacabra, although it might be a little slow. Definitely want to cut my Ruin Raiders. Warkite Marauder is helpful against Hazoret and Ifnir Deadlands. I'm going to go ahead and keep it around. Dire Fleet Poisoner is great in blocking. I don't think this is a Curious Obsession matchup. We're definitely not going for card advantage. We're going just for stabilizing and answering our opponent's cards. Scarab God is a little expensive, but can help in the late game if we get there, so I'll keep one copy. Fathom Fleet Captain actually did a lot of work that game for us, so left unanswered, it does a good job. I don't want to flood on Lookout's Dispersals in this matchup, so I think I'm okay cutting one of those as well. Let's go ahead and sort by converted mana cost and see how we can fill in our deck here. Interesting, some number of Duress could be good against Chandra, against burn spells. I think Ravenous Chupacabra is an okay card. Actually, I think I want both Ravenous, no Scarab God, and maybe I want to keep... Maybe I want like one Duress, if that makes sense. Again, Chandra is a problem card, so is all their cheap removal. But it's a pretty bad late game draw. Alternatively, Lookout's Dispersal is a little better there, but we don't want to stock up on too much expensive plays. We do want to off-tilt our opponent a little bit. So by looking at Dispersal as an answer to Hazoret, it is a little bit clunky. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it and put in another Duress. The lower we are to the ground, the better. It's also possible our opponent sides into kind of a bigger game plan here with more Chandras. Yeah, this is a great hand. We have turn 1 Fatal Push into turn 2 Glint Sleeve. Less lands would be good, but at least one of our lands cycles. See if our opponent has like a 2-drop here. It would be nice to Fatal Push a Karizev or something like that. Earthshaker Kenra, I think I will still Fatal Push. Even though it gets value out of the graveyard, I think it's just good to preserve our life total here. Make sure we have time to cast all of our spells in our hand. Direfleet Poisoner is good, and it could be good against On-Crop Crasher, but it can also be good against On-Crop Crasher next turn as well, so I just want to get a board presence here. The Fanatical Firebrand card could easily ping our Glint Sleeve. Daredevil. Ooh, that is so cool. That's really cool. And it also is really strong against Direfleet Poisoner because we can't block it favorably. So definitely probably going to cycle Fetid Pools this turn if we don't have an opportunity to cast this Direfleet. My hope is my opponent goes On-Crop Crasher here, though. Looks like there's no On-Crop Crasher in our horizon, though. It's possible there's a Chandra, though. And if there's a Chandra, I think we're in an okay spot. Hazoret. Okay, that's scary for sure. So I think what we want to do is just flash in the Direfleet Poisoner. Interesting. We could Kitesail Freebooter here and rip maybe a Chandra, but I think we're better off just going Ravenous, killing our opponent's creature here. And next turn we can still Kitesail plus Cycle. And now we can get in for 2. So if we find an answer to Hazoret, we might be in a good spot. If our opponent is flooding on maybe like big drops, hopefully there's no Glorybringer here. Glorybringer would just Path of Metal. Okay, interesting. Does ping our creatures here, and then our opponent can bin a card with Hazoret or a Braid, sure. Do we want to block with Ravenous? I think we do. Save ourselves some life, give ourselves some time to draw into answers. So I think we want to lead on Kitesail. See if our opponent has like an expensive Chandra in their hand. Looks like it's a Lightning Strike. I'm happy to take that out of my opponent's hand. Again, I'm probably going to cycle Fetid Pools this turn. And look for an answer to Hazoret. Oh my god, that was an insane draw. Oh god. Mountain goes upstairs. Hazoret smacks us for 5. Yeah, I think before I make this decision, I'm going to go ahead and cycle if I want to block. We could block the Storm Tamer here, but then how are we pressuring the Chandra? So I think we take it and hope to draw an answer to Hazoret. That's definitely not an answer to Hazoret. Our opponent had quite a nice curve out here. But that does not leave us dead on board, right? Yeah, we're not dead on board here. That's really unfortunate, because I think if we didn't flood out here, like, we'd be in an okay spot. Karizev, hopefully they actually cast it, yeah, because I don't want to take 2 damage. Oh my god, wow. Our opponent just had massive rips off the top. Like, perfect mana. Everything lined up well. We go ahead and take a bunch here. It's possible we should have saved the Dire Fleet Poisoner, but... Oh wow, they even trigger Path of Metal. Yeah, I think we're pretty dead here. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and F6 here. Yeah, too little too late, right? Okay. Okay. That's really unfortunate for us. So, I like our configuration a lot. I don't think there's anything we did wrong. I think we just flooded out there, unfortunately. So I'll go ahead and run it back. There's an argument for Scarab God, but again, I think we just flooded that game, and I don't think that's going to happen often. So let's go ahead and play first. Yeah, I mean, our hand has a lot of castable spells, and that's going to be really important. A lot of cheap early plays. Omat Courier, I think, is worth Fatal Pushing. I guess I could have let the exile happen. I think I want a Kite Sail Freebooter here. Wow, our opponent's got a really nice hand. Relentless Raptor. Jeez. That's aggressive. That is aggressive. Alright, we took the Chandra. Our opponent plays the Plains. Carry Zev, sure. So I wouldn't mind a land here. Not quite a land, but if we can get a Fathom Fleet Captain going here, we might be okay. But again, lands is going to mean that this Golden Demise is not getting triggered very easily. Oops, I meant to... So we know our opponent still has a Glorybringer. Wow. Ah, jeez. That's a beating. That's a beating. So we still want to land here. Fatal Push is good, but I think I want to save it for the Raptor. I think. Yeah, this land trouble should not be happening. We're running 23 lands. That's plenty of lands in our deck. Oh my god. Oh, jeez. Our opponent's got a really cool brew though, but we're getting out brewed here. Okay, at least they went for the Glintsleeve Siphoner, I think is good for us. And if we don't draw a land this turn, we're going to be in really rough shape because we need to still develop the board. Sweet, that was the perfect land. I'll go ahead and play a Siphoner here. We know our opponent is sitting on Glorybringer plus Relentless Raptor. And I think before combat, I'm going to go ahead and Fatal Push Carry Zev. So, beginning of combat, Fatal Push, target Carry Zev. Our opponent goes ahead and swings for 2. I think we'll say okay here. So at least we're both playing on 4 lands here. Relentless Raptor. We could easily draw out of this. Fetid Pools. Okay. Is there an argument for double blocking the Relentless Raptor? Then they flip Path of Metal? Jeez. Yeah, I think we have to we have to double block here. Yep, our opponent flips the Path of Metal, which is really good against us, unfortunately. And then they're going to get a 2-for-1 here. Alternatively, we could block just the Dire Fleet. Yeah, we take one more, but at least we keep a creature around. That might be better. Our opponent gets their Chandra back. They have 4 lands, and we're really soft to a Glorybringer. Yeah, so again, kind of locked into making this play here. Although if we wanted to double block, then the Golden Demise would be live still. Man, this is not lining up. Storm Tamer, looks like we're now locked into double blocking again this turn. Because we're definitely not racing what my opponent is doing here. Deals 2 damage each opponent, choose a creature at random. Another Chandra, yeah. Land for the Glorybringer. Had 2 red. Oh boy. Bowmat Courier, yep. So how are we beating this draw from my opponent? I don't think we are, but maybe like a Vraska's Contempt can keep us here for a few more turns. So it's really rough when your opponent goes bigger in game 2. Because obviously like Golden Demise, very poor here. Yeah. And obviously we know our opponent has Glorybringer in hand. We could Golden Demise, and then we're not technically dead, but we're pretty dead. Looks like there's a lot of aggro decks out there, and I think we should be decently positioned against them, but our draws are not lining up here. We're flooding, we don't have payoff. Looks like our opponent got there this game. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. This was match 3 against Red-White Aggro. Stay tuned for the 4th match in this standard competitive league, and I'll see you all soon. Alright, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the 4th match here in the standard competitive league. We're currently 1-2, unfortunately. But let's see if we can, come back here and get a 3-2. We won the die roll, and yeah, we would love to play first. Yeah, this hand seems great. We have turn 2 Poisoner into turn 3 Dispersal. Let's go ahead and just get our Black Source out here, because in the case that we draw a Glintleaf Siphoner, we may want to cast it with Aether Hub, right? Oh my god. Okay, Renegade map. I swear, if everyone's playing red, I was gonna be so tilted. Let's go ahead and just get Aether Hub out here. And we'll pass the turn. We'll have Dire Fleet up on end step, and Renegade map could mean a lot of things. But we'll see what land our opponent fetches up here. Swamp. Could be red-black. Mid-range of some sort. Pathetic Prism. Okay. Looks like it's an artifact-based deck, which we probably could have guessed with the Renegade map. Let's go ahead and just run out our Dire Fleet Poisoner. Curious Obsession would be a really, really nice draw here for us, because we can start getting some card advantage. Vraska's Contempt, not the best draw considering we don't have another black source, but let's go ahead and get in there for 2. Screw our opponent. See if we can tempo them out a bit with Lookouts, Dispersals. Cog Workers Puzzle Knot. Yeah, I think that's fine too. To counter. It'll end up blocking Dire Fleet Poisoner really well. Don't want that to happen. We want to, jeez, come on, deck. Come on. Alright, if we can stop drawing lands, that would be perfect. In terms of the next Cog Workers puzzle, I don't think I'm countering it. Yeah, Prophetic Prism, absolutely. Go ahead, get your redraw. Alright, we need to find a source of card advantage here. So like Ruin Raider would be perfect. I mean, I guess. The issue is our clock is not great. We're not gaining any card advantage. So we have the reactive portion of our deck, and we don't have the proactive version of our deck. And this is what happens when you play a non-linear deck sometimes. You run into these issues. I wonder if our opponent's playing like War of Invention. I don't know what they... I know they're definitely playing the big Improvise guy. Yeah, I don't think we can... Prophetic Prism, sure. So this could just be like Grixis Improvise, so I think I do want to save my Lookouts Dispersals here for some of their payoff cards. Gloom Thief Siphoner is a great payoff card for us, though. And hopefully our opponent doesn't have an opportunity to double spell next turn. Great. Gloom Thief Siphoner is great. It lets us use some of this energy to turn it into card advantage. I wonder if my opponent has the counterspell, like the Mana Leak effect. And I wonder if they should have ripped it off there if they want to jam a threat here. But they could probably still jam their improvised big guy here with counter backup. Contraback Kingpin. They cannot pay for it, but let's say they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 artifacts. I think it's just too risky if we don't. Yeah, it looks like they're going to cast an improvised spell here. And I'm likely going to try to counter this one. It's possible my opponent has the Mana Leak in their hand. Looks like they do, which is really unfortunate for us. Yeah, I kind of expected this to happen. Like, we drew our payoff just way too late, and we cannot leverage our advantage anymore. So our opponent gets to scry a bunch. Man, what? Like, come on, deck, give us some better draws here. Fatal Push, not great. Definitely not great. We can Fatal Push the Contraband and swing in with everything. Well, let's see. How did they scry? They scried top. Okay, so I think I'm okay with Fatal Pushing here and trading some cards. Again, I do want to be worried about their big improvised creature coming into play. Yep. So it's important to just make sure we don't die, because we have draws in our deck. We have Scarab God, we have payoff cards that could still get us back into this game. 2, 3, Aethersphere Harvester. I think I will counter that. If our opponent's got another Mana Leak effect, it's better off that we get them to use it now instead of over our expensive spells. But our opponent's draw just lined up really well against ours. It's a land. I guess it lets us cast Vraska's Contempt without using energy, but at this point, I don't really care. Looks like our opponent's going to cash in maybe Cogweaver's Puzzle Knot. Oh my god, another like Thopter, Maverick Thopterist is just... I guess they did scry, right? They scry to the top. I think we're going to be locked into Vraska's Contempt here. I'm going to see if my opponent wants to spend some energy. Looks like they choose not to. So I'll go ahead and Vraska's Contempt here. We take 1, go to 18. We still have draws in this deck that could work. For Tezzeret. Okay. Tezzeret is manageable. We have another Vraska's Contempt. So essentially it just created an energy for them, and if we can draw Scarab God or something like that, we could be in a good spot. That's also okay. Again, I'm going to do this on my main phase. Don't want them to counter it, don't want them to do anything else, and I'm going to go ahead and flash in Dire Fleet Poisoner to hopefully eat up one of these Thopter tokens. Oh no. Oh no. Did they draw their best card in their deck? Yeah, I guess we're not technically dead. We can draw we can draw Hostage Take. Whoops, that was close. We can draw Hostage Taker. Let's go ahead and I guess blocking the Motorist saves more damage in the long haul. Looks like my opponent doesn't want to sacrifice. Yeah, looks like I have to discard this Fatal Push. So Hostage Taker still an out. Don't Sleep Siphoner, definitely not an out. But we'll play it anyways because we're not dead yet. Our opponent's just not activating Herald of Anguish, which is good for us, but yeah, it looks like they're going to activate it now. And now there's a 2-turn clock on us. Oh, man. Hostage Taker? One time? Alright. Okay, I've seen enough. I have seen enough. So, I like Gonti in this matchup. Golden Demise is interesting, but ultimately I think it's going to be unimpressive. Some number of Duress seems good, as well as some number of Negate. What don't we like in this matchup? Well, there's a lot of things we do like. We probably don't like Fatal Push whatsoever. Well, actually, keeping some number of Fatal Push is okay against Contraband Kingpin. Gonti is good in this kind of grindy matchup. I think Duress is pretty good to maybe take them off of some of their artifacts, as is Negate. Look, Gust Dispersal is going to be kind of important overall. I'm not sure I need Siren Storm Tamer in this matchup. And what else can we cut? Probably Warcut Marauder doesn't line up well against a bunch of Thopters. Yeah, we can probably cut both of those and add in another Duress. Because I like the more proactive plays here. So let's go ahead and say submit. What's going to happen is, like, we're going to draw both of our Fatal Pushes. This is what happens, like, when I trim down and I sideboard a card that I want sometimes, but really not in my opener. It definitely happens. Anyways, let's go ahead and keep this hand. This hand is quite good. I'm going to go ahead and lead on Duress here, in case we draw a 2-drop that we want to play. Scarab God is scary, but I think I'm okay taking Tezzeret here. Servo Schematic is... They have a lot of cantripping here, but I think I'd rather just take their payoff spells rather than their Improvise outlets. There is an argument to take one of their Prisms, but I don't think that's what I want to do. Spire of Industry. They drew a 1-drop. Ugh, come on. See if we draw a 2-drop. Sweet, Dire Fleet Poisoner is great, actually. It lines up so well against what we want to do here. Alright, looks like our opponent's going to hit their 3rd land here, most likely. They do, obviously, because they have Swamp. They play the Swamp. Servo Schematic. Sure. I'm just going to go ahead and play Poisoner so that I can F6 away. Again, what we were missing game 1 is a card advantage engine like this, like Ruin Raider, and we're on track there. So that's going to be good for us. And hopefully while our opponent is dirtling with Prophetic Prisms, yeah, we can go ahead and play things like Kite Sail Freebooters and things like that. Spire Bluff Canal means we know everything in our opponent's hand. at this point. Obviously, they're going to get a redraw here. It looks like they did draw 1-drop, which is definitely nice for them considering they want to get land drops to hit the Scarab God. Unfortunately, we did not hit lands to get to the Scarab God. But right now, let's just go ahead and swing. If my opponent wants to block with a servo, I think I'm okay with that. And I think here I'll just go ahead and jam a Kite Sail down. Wow, it's a good thing we did, because now we can take Chandra out of our opponent's hand. And if we get to draw something like... Negate's not great, right, because it doesn't hit Scarab God. Let's go ahead and update what we know in our opponent's hand. Again, our opponent is on track to landing a Scarab God, but it looks like my opponent just concedes. I guess we had a pretty good start here. I don't know why though, because Scarab... I mean, I guess we were getting in for more damage. But anyways, let's take it. Let's not complain. So anyway, we can deal with Scarab God outside of Hostage Taker and Vassal Contempt. I don't think so. Again, I'm really tempted to just cut these Fatal Pushes because it's pretty bad outside of hitting Contraband Kingpin. So maybe we just should. Maybe we just should get the 4th Duress in here and get like another Ravenous Chupacabra. Not another, but like it's a card that can tempo out the Scarab God, can kill their big creature. I like this. I like this configuration. I don't think we need Fatal Push, but maybe we'll get punished this game for it, for not having Fatal Push. Our hand's okay. It could use some lands, but we have some Disruption, we have a Counterspell, and we have some nice payoff. Alright. Okay. Not a land, but it's a card we can cast. Worst case scenario. Renegade Map. Wow, our opponent kept a 1-lander. And we drew a land, which is great. So let's go ahead and get a Kite Sail Freebooter in there. Interesting. Interesting. I think I think we still take the Fatal Push here. A lot of Herald of Anguishes, though. Always scary. Yeah, I think we definitely take the Fatal Push. So our opponent's going to go ahead and crack the Renegade Map. Get a Swamp. I imagine play a Swamp. I imagine play a Renegade Map. Nope. Prophetic Prism. Sure. It's possible that if they drew a land, then playing Prophetic Prism is correct there. Lookout's Dispersal is really nice. Especially if my opponent is on the Herald plan and they don't have interaction for my counter spells. Again, we get to keep up a end-step Direfleet Poisoner here. Another Prophetic Prism, definitely annoying, but I think I'd rather jam another threat here than use up my mana on that. And our opponent didn't even hit a land, which is going to be really good for us. Negate is a nice card. And looks like my opponent just concedes. I guess they got a little bit tilted here, and I'm not sure why. They definitely have time. Definitely not game over for them. They're a deck that goes big. They're a deck that is going to play lands and cards and spells. So I think my opponent just got a little tilted here. I don't think that's a good representation of the matchup necessarily. But we'll take it. It's a 2-2 now, and we can fight for our 3-2, right? Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for the 5th and final match with Blue Black Pirates. I will see you all soon. Alright guys, welcome back to the 5th and final match with Blue Black Pirates. We're playing for big money here. We're 2-2, fighting for that 3-2. And we start with this hand. Let's go ahead and mulligan this away. I guess it's a keep. Land, spells, Black Source. I think I want to keep on top again. Zombies? Oh no. Or mono black aggro. There's a lot of aggro running around. I'm gonna go ahead and bluff swamp or fatal push here. So again, being on the draw here and mulliganing to Oblivion, I guess not Oblivion, mulliganed once, but being on the draw with our top end in our hand rather than our low end is going to be really tough against an aggressive deck. And this can happen sometimes. Hopefully we can draw a 2-drop here. That is acceptable. Let's go ahead and play Kitesail Freebooter. Hopefully we don't get hit by a Fatal Push here, and maybe we can steal a vehicle from our opponent's hand. I know that Mono Black tends to play like Aether Sphere Harvesters occasionally. But that was a great draw here. It's a 2-drop. It helps a lot. And by my opponent's pause here, it almost feels like they definitely have the Fatal Push. They do have the Fatal Push. Supernatural Stamina. Let me read that card. Until in turn, the creature gets +2/+0, and whenever the creature dies. So, I think I want to take Fatal Push and force them to walk the plank if they want to. Interesting, my opponent just let that resolve. I feel like that's interesting. If we can get to this, like, get to the late game here and land a Scarab God, I think we'll be in a really good spot. Alright, looks like my opponent is casting Walk the Plank, which makes a lot of sense. Or maybe they want to attack first. Because for all they know, I might block and they get to Supernatural Stamina. But I'm not blocking. Again, I'm less scared of Mono Black aggro. This is because they don't have burn spells, really. So if we can stabilize on board, we are usually able to just stabilize in general. There goes Walk the Plank. Yeah, let's just play Aether Hub and pass, and hopefully our opponent goes land Aether Sphere Harvester here. Again, I think I'm going to be forced to Hostage Taker next turn, and it's unfortunate if our opponent goes land Aether Sphere on that turn, but again, to preserve our life total here, we just have to get some of this stuff off the board. Fatal Push is interesting, right? Because whenever this creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped. So that's actually, I think that's a safer line for us. I think that's a much safer line. I think dying in the air is a great way to die. Not a great way to die. It's a great way we can die here. And now, with our opponent drawing their third land, they might even be incentivized not to, not even Supernatural Stamina on the Dread Wander, especially because it's recursive. Alright, looks like we just get a hit for 2 here, and if we can slam Scarab God here, I think we'll be in a really good spot. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Come on, just cast it. Just cast it. Yeah. So we know the 2 cards in the hand, Supernatural Stamina, Fatal Push, +1, Unknown. Yeah, let's just go ahead and slam Scarab God here. It's going to be a great blocker, great card on defense, and great card on offense. And again, we have a stop on my upkeep here in case I want to reanimate something. If my opponent has Vraska's Contempt right now, I'm going to be very upset, but not the end of the world if they do. Amit Eternal. Cool. Alright, so they still have Fatal Push up. The question is, do we want to reanimate something here? Again, they will Fatal Push my Kitesail Freebooter. So I think I'm just going to say no here. I think I'd rather just get a natural draw. Ammon Eternal is quite scary, but I think next turn I can go Hostage Taker and steal it. Opponent plays land, so we know Fatal Push, land, Fatal Push, Supernatural Stamina. If they go If Near Dead lands here, then they don't have mana to make any specific plays or anything like that. Okay, so our opponent wants to go ahead and attack with Ammon Eternal. A little scary for sure, but I think I'm gonna just cancel. I'm gonna take the damage here, I think. Definitely a bit of a risky line here, considering my opponent has Supernatural Stamina. If they drew another one, they could have killed me. But I think we're close to stabilizing here, considering our opponent's hand. They're going to be forced to cast their Fatal Push this turn. And then we still get to see their hand and see what they're working with. And then we could totally blow them out with Hostage Taker. Obviously, if my opponent has like two Fatal Pushes, then game becomes a little bit different. Looks like they're going to let this resolve. Yeah, they have exactly two Fatal Pushes, right? So it doesn't really matter what we take here. I guess we take the Supernatural Stamina to remove some of their options. But ultimately, it doesn't matter, right? But we get a Scry. And that's maybe something my opponent did not consider. Oh, well, I guess we don't get a Scry now, right? Opponent goes Fatal Push, gets back their Supernatural Stamina. We don't get to Scry, but we will get to steal Ammon Eternal. And then if our opponent wants to Fatal Push, we'll rebuy Hostage Taker. Okay. I think I'd rather play that. Let's go ahead and Hostage Taker here. Get to steal Ammon Eternal means that blocking it will not be lethal for us, because we won't be blocking it. If a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, right? Yeah. I should know how Fatal Push works by now. I've played with that card a bit too long to make that. So what's nice here is we still have priority before our opponent is able to cast Fatal Push. Okay, still hoping to dodge Vraska's Contempt next turn. And then, again, we have to cast this immediately. The question is, can we afford to attack with Scarab God? What lines kill us? So, like, they can Fatal Push here, draw another removal spell. Like Walk the Plank? Yeah. So I don't think... We can't block here. Just to be safe. If my opponent does not cast Fatal Push here, then we're in really good tip-top shape here. This is kind of the reasons why I like having Aether Sphere Harvester in the main deck. Now, obviously, we're not running it today in the main, but it is... So I imagine they're going to hit their own Ammon Eternal here, because they don't want my Hostage Taker in the graveyard. Oh, could they Supernatural Stamina it? because they are the owner, right? I think they could have done that. And then they still have Amit Eternal. But then, of course, we block with Hostage Taker, and then we steal it again. So not necessarily a winning line for my opponent. Okay. Opponent draws land. That is perfect for us. This is exactly where we want to take over the late game. Sure. Our opponent is not using their If and You're Dead lands, which is good for us. Our opponent can't really attack with Dread Wanderer. Let's go ahead and use Scarab God here so we can scry a little bit. Develop our board as well. Kitetail Freebooter. Yeah, I'll keep that on top. I guess we didn't have to play that land and show our opponent what we're working with here, but I'm going to go ahead and try to rip Supernatural Stamina out of my opponent's hand here. They'll be forced to cast it this turn. If they, well, actually, no, they won't. That's I guess, if they think I plan on attacking, then that's good. Yeah. We go ahead and take that. I'm going to leave it revealed here in case it gets removed. So again, what scenario do we die here? Very few, so I think it's safe to get in there with Scarab God now. Keep back Hostage Taker to block. And next turn, I'll actually probably keep Scarab God back and start swinging with the Amit Eternal instead. Again, we do want to win this game. We don't want to give our opponent too many draw steps. I don't think we put ourselves dead on board here. Dread Wanderer, sure. Comes into play tapped. They can activate If and You're Dead lands now on our Amit Eternal. They could also do it on Kitesail Freebooter. But then we will rebuy Kitesail Freebooter on our upkeep. So it doesn't accomplish all that much. Sure. Opponent still doesn't have a good attack here. I actually prefer Kitesail Freebooter in the graveyard, to be honest, to be quite honest. Looks like I'm lagging a bit here. Sorry for that, guys. Alright, come on, Magic Online. One, two, three, four. Kitesail Freebooter. Let's say okay. We'll take Supernatural Stamina again. Now we have a 4/4 flyer in the end, and we're draining our opponent for 2. I don't want Ruin Raider. Again, our life total is really low. We can't really afford it. Wow, Hostage Taker. Fantastic, fantastic draw. I think now we probably just still get in there with Scarab God. Sure. And then I guess we could have got in there with Hostage Taker too. Yeah, maybe I could have been a little more aggressive with my line there. They definitely want to play their Dread Wanderer so that I don't rebuy it. Okay. That's definitely an annoying card. But, again, now we have an attacker in the air, and we're draining them for 2 a turn, so it's not the end of the world. Let's go ahead and scry here. Let's go bottom. I think I'd rather just look for removal at this point. That's okay, too. Let's go ahead and just cast that while we're at it. Sent me a message. That card is brutal. Yeah. Yeah, it sure is. I think here we can get in with these two. If my opponent wants to block one of my hostage takers, they can have. I'm happy with that. Cool. Yeah, that's. I guess my opponent doesn't realize that I'm just gonna rebuy that at instant speed and protect it. I wonder if they play Bantu's Last Reckoning in the main deck. They are, however, dead on board, assuming the board state doesn't change. Walk the plank, targeting Scarab God. That's pretty good. Let's go ahead and just get our Hot Stitch Taker. We will target the Aetherborn, and I imagine my opponent just concedes here because, yeah. Yep. Okay, looks like we stabilized that game. I like Harvesters in this matchup a lot. Golden Demise seems pretty good, and so does Gonti and Ravenous. So this is what you usually bring in against the more low-to-the-ground aggressive decks. Here, I actually don't hate Curious Obsession, because gaining card advantage is kind of important against them. I do like cutting some of our more aggressive cards. So I like to get Ruin Raider, especially on the draw. I like to cut some number of Lookout's Dispersal, especially because they're a really cheap low-to-the-ground deck. And I think I like to cut Fathom Fleet Captain because it's a little awkward. Warkite Marauder could be a little useful, so I'm going to keep it, especially because it's pretty evasive. So let's get Gonti, Ravenous, Aether Sphere, and a Golden Demise in there. So Scarab God did a lot of work that game, and I think against Mono Black it's probably correct to keep them in, especially because they don't have burn to close out the game. Yeah, I'm kind of... Now, Lookout's Dispersal was okay that game, but it was just okay. Maybe just one Golden Demise is fine, because they probably play Scrap Heap Scrounger too, and they play Vehicles, and they play cards that come back from the graveyard. So I think just one Golden Demise is enough. More or less might just be like a tempo play to get us to this late game, rather than something like we're leaning on to like stabilize. Man, my opponent just goes like Snap Keeps, and it's just like really... I think this is a keep, though. We have a turn 1 play. Looks like our opponent does too. Night Market Lookout, I would actually happily trade for with Siren Stormtamer if my opponent does not have a removal spell. Looks like drawing Drowned Catacomb makes me much happier to cycle this Fetid Pools next turn, most likely, unless I draw a 2-drop. Alright, looks like we're getting... Oh, no Fatal Push. Yeah. Happily gonna take this trade here. I think Stormtamer did its work there. Drawing another land does not feel great. But my opponent being on one land either means they have a really good hand. That means that if they draw their second land, it's that good. Or it's a hand like this, right? So Golden Demise, obviously... Whoa. Turn off auto yields. Let's just go ahead and cycle. Hopefully not hit another land. Siren Stormtamer lines up pretty well against this other Night Market Lookout, and could mean that when Chupacabra comes down... Ooh, Harvester, huh? Harvester is a really interesting play, because when we play Chupacabra, it could be really good. Really good. The question is, do I want to try to trade here? Yeah, I think that's okay. I think I like trying to trade. Let's go ahead and get this Aether Hub down. Yeah, I think I'm okay trading here. Hopefully our opponent doesn't go land, Walk the Plank, or land Fatal Push. Definitely plays worse into Fatal Push, but plays better into another 1-drop. Yep. And again, I do want to try to contain their board as best as possible. Right, they're not attacking with a Night Market Lookout, which is really interesting. Sure, we're not blocking here. So we could even save this Chupacabra and just go to town with this Harvester. Harvester is so good on defense here, and we even have Siren Storm Tamer to protect it. Yeah, I'm much happier with this play. Of course, I would much rather stop drawing lands, especially because usually Mana Screw beats Mana Flood, but whoa there, guys. Our opponent concedes. Getting stuck on one land against an Aethersphere Harvester does feel pretty bad, but looks like we got there that match. We got the 3-2 in the end, which is great for us, and we learned a very exploitable weakness in our deck too, which we'll talk about in our closing comments. Anyways, thanks so much for watching if you made it through these 5 matches of this standard competitive league, and stay tuned for the closing comments coming up real soon. Alright everybody, welcome back to the closing comments. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you took some time out of your day to watch my matches, to maybe watch a couple of them and make it all the way here, I really appreciate it. Please consider liking the video, subscribing to my channel. It really helps a lot. YouTube is changing a lot of things that they do, and there's a lot of things that are blocked off for me if I don't have at least 1,000 subscribers. So please do consider subscribing if you enjoyed the content. And if you did not enjoy the content, please let me know what it is you didn't like about it so that I can improve, so that I can make your experience better in the future. Anyways, let's move on to the closing comments of the deck. So, first things first, I want to note, I don't like these islands. I think I definitely want to cut an island for a swamp. So there were 2 matches there, 2 of the matches that we lost, actually. Or maybe it was against Mardu Vehicles in match 2, where we were, like, mana screwed both games. And it was not just mana screwed, but it was color screwed. And that's possibly because we configured our mana base wrong, right? I mean, look, 6 swamps versus 5 islands, technically. But look at our curve here. We have incredibly more black spells on turn 1 and 2 than we do blue spells. And these blue spells are also not critical to casting as early as possible, right? Curious Obsession requires you to already have a board state, you know. Siren Storm Tamer can protect a spell starting any turn that you have blue mana open. And Warkite Marauder is the only card that really would be useful in terms of casting on turn 2. But we have so many black 2-drops that maximizing our chance to cast them on turn 2, I think, is really important. So I think we made a critical mistake when constructing our mana base here. So first things first, cut an island, maybe even 2, for 2 more swamps. For 1 to 2 more swamps. Second thing, Ruin Raider felt like a card that was great on the play when you had tempo going, but it felt really bad against Aggro. And Aggro is one of this deck's worst matchups. And it's also pretty popular these days. So, what I was thinking, I was even thinking about doing it before I did the series, but I, decided to just hold my judgment and see how the deck performed. Overall, I think we can easily cut a Ruin Raider and move a Harvester to the main. Maybe even have 2 Harvesters in the main. Originally, I really liked Harvester. So, I think Harvester is a card that would easily find a home in our build. Excuse me. In our build here, in the main deck, right? And it's also a hedge against one of our worst matchups. And having that game 1 strength, where, Ruin Raider is a card you really never want to cast. In that game that we were playing against Hazaret, we were able to race them, but maybe we could have raced them even better if we were gaining 3 life instead of losing 1 to 2 life plus a Hazaret beat every turn, right? So it's tough. It's a tough balance, but overall, I think Ruin Raider is the kind of card you don't want to go too all in on. I think 2 Ruin Raider is fine, especially considering our top end is quite top, right? I do think it's a card you want to have, though. I think it's a card you at least want to have 2 of, because it's great in a lot of different matchups. Okay, what else did I want to say? Overall, this Golden Demise, it was okay. It's really awkward because Vehicles decks, it hits some of their cards, but not others, like their Vehicles. It was weird against Red-White Aggro because they have a lot of 3 toughness bodies. Obviously, we maybe didn't face the matchups where it's great against, like maybe Merfolk, but how popular is Merfolk really going to be I think that's something we should take into consideration, and maybe cut one Golden Demise out. And overall, what I actually really loved in the sideboard was the Ravenous Chupacabra. I think sideboarding into that kind of more mid-rangey plan, especially if we won game 1 and we're on the draw, I like it a lot. I like, you can set up Aether Sphere Harvester, play a Ravenous Chupacabra, keep back Harvester to block. I think that's a really nice interaction that we shouldn't overlook. I still don't think Ravenous is the kind of card we want in our main deck, but it's definitely a card we want to have access to in our sideboard. So having 2 of them, I think that's a perfect change for our deck here. Gonti is just okay. Again, it's more for the grinding matchups. The rest negate. I often found myself never siding in the full copies. Now, we never play against a hard control deck, right? Imagine if we played against you know, blue-black control or blue-white control, we would want all of them, right? Because we'd be cutting fatal pushes, we'd be cutting hostage takers, and maybe some other cards. But ultimately, I think it's possible we can trim some copies of these 2 cards here, maybe 1 or 2 of the 8, and then add in some tools to beat mono red or more aggressive decks like Mardu vehicles. And I think, because we have such a good matchup already against the control decks with Kitesail Freebooters, with our Glintleaf Siphoners, with Ruin Raiders, and our cheap removal and Scarab God, I don't think we need to go too all in here on the Duress and Negate. It's not like control is our worst matchup and we gotta beat it, right? I think it's important to understand where your weaknesses are and attack those weaknesses with your sideboard. Duress and Negate don't necessarily do that with as 4 copies. But it is something that's worth playing around with. Anyways, what I loved about the deck, I think Scarab God is, of course, a staple that sticks around. Vraska's Contempt, we only saw it a little bit, but it's a card you need to have. You need to have. And I think I've changed my opinion on Fathom Fleet Captain. I think it's a card that's absolutely fantastic. It single-handedly won a game against Hazoret by being able to churn out like chump blockers every turn while still being able to, excuse me, apply pressure on the opponent. So overall, I actually really like the 2-drop slot. I like 2 Siren Storm Tamers and 4 Fatal Pushes. I don't like Ruin Raider. Maybe we can cut Lookout's Dispersal, but I think Lookout's Dispersal is one of the great payoffs for playing this kind of cheap tempo strategy. And it's really hard to maybe cut it, because then what's our payoff, right? We're just kind of a blue-black mid-range deck. So in my opinion, I think maybe we can keep a Lookout's Dispersal, or maybe cut 1 Dispersal, 1 Ruin Raider for 1 to 2 Aether Sphere Harvester. Definitely worth playing around with. There's also the option of just cutting Curious Obsession, because almost every deck in Standard plays removal. You're gonna be hard pressed to find a deck that's like not interacting with you. And of course, we are disrupting our opponent. We have Kite Sails, post board. We have Duresses and Negates, and we have Siren Storm Tamers to protect our creatures. But it's possible that Curious Obsession is just too much of a win more card, right? If we're already not being disrupted and we've got a board set up, then maybe we can have better cards that make use of our mana. But ultimately, I think it's worth playing around with. We didn't see Curious Obsession, I think, even once, at least not in hands that we kept, in all of these 5 matches. So we can't necessarily make that kind of judgment right away. But I think there's a lot of room to be played with this deck. I think Aggro is seriously one of the tougher matchups. We played 3 Aggro decks in the first, 3 matches. 3 of them. We played Mardu Vehicles, Red White Aggro. And we beat them once, but we lost to them twice. Hazoret is a really powerful magic card, and playing a deck that's weak to Hazoret can be really tough. So maybe we need more Vraska's Contempts. Maybe we need something else to attack that matchup, right? Because, before I was like, oh, Vraska's Contempt plays really poorly with Ruin Raider. But if we play Vraska's Contempt in the sideboard, and Ruin Raider usually comes out in those matchups, I think having more main deck answers to Chandra, Hazoret, can be really important, because we can probably generally stabilize the early game by trading, disrupting, and things like that. And it's that late game that really gets us, right? It's those big powerhouse hitters, Chandra, Hazoret, and then once it gets out of control, it's just out of control. Anyways, those are my closing thoughts. Hopefully I didn't miss anything that I was thinking about. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video, if you think this deck could be improved more. I know a lot of you were requesting another video, and it's a deck that I really, really like playing, so it's really easy for me to just record again and play again and go to town with it, right? And we 3-2'd in the end. We 3-2'd. That's a positive record. We got our money back. We got a good old chesty out of the deal. So, and we learned some of the weaknesses in our deck, some of the faults and we'll go ahead and fix them for the next time around. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video series, and stay tuned for some more videos, hopefully coming soon. Yep, see you guys later.